So you've got a shelf of good intentions where all of your goals sit there collecting dust. Sound familiar? Well, if so, roll up your sleeves because today we're going to get down and dirty with the SMART goal action plan that won't overwhelm you. Welcome back to the channel where we're always here to help you try to crush your goals and live your best life. I'm Rachel, and in this video, I'm going to equip you with the system that you need to make your SMART goals reality. If you're not quite sure what a SMART goal is, you're probably going to want to check out my video on setting SMART goals. But for now, I want to know, how confident are you in creating an action plan to help you complete your goals? You're either A or B. Are you person A? I'm totally confident I got this. Or are you person B? Kind of shaky. I could probably use a little guidance. Of course, when you set a SMART goal, it's really exciting. You've got this goal, maybe it's a dream, you're not really quite sure how to go about putting an action plan into place to turn that dream into reality. That's what I'm going to show you today. All right, so any good action plan does three things. It gets broken down into manageable steps, it assigns deadlines along the way, and it holds you accountable every step of the way. Any good action plan does this. How do we create this action plan? Let's take a look. All right, we're going to break our action plan down into 6 specific steps. You see them here. I would like to use 2 different examples to show you exactly how you can do this for yourself. Our sections are specific actions, deadlines, manageable steps, really important, scheduling, tracking and adjusting, and accountability. So let's take a look at them one at a time. With our first example, we'll use physical health. So in the last video that you may have just checked out, where we talk all about SMART goals, we use the example of increasing physical health and endurance. And with this specific person, we talked about increasing endurance so that they could run 5K without stopping. So let's just go back to that example so that it fits nicely here. All right, so with the specific actions, what you need to do is you have to say, what is my goal? 5K without stopping. And you have to ask yourself, what is it that I need to do in order to get that done? So we can't just sit around on the couch all day long and hope that by the end of 4 months, we're going to be able to reach that goal. There are certain actions we need to take in order for that to happen. The action that needs to happen is consistent running and increasing increments of run distance without stopping. That's what needs to get done. That's your specific action. The only other thing that I might put here is how often you're going to run. So let's say this person decided they're going to run 2 times a week, and they're going to start off at 1 kilometer twice a week without stopping. The next step is setting deadlines. And this is really important because although our big goal has a 4-month window, we want to make sure that our specific actions that are broken down into manageable steps have deadlines of their own. So let's just say in this instance, we want to increase our distance for endurance every 2 weeks. After we set the deadline, we're going to want to create manageable steps. And sometimes you might actually want to create the manageable steps first, but in this example, I've already taken care of that for you. We're going to imagine that you can run 1 kilometer distance without stopping. That is where you're going to start with your manageable step 1. Because that's achievable fairly easily for you. Where it gets a little challenging is then when you need to figure out how are you going to get to 5K by 4 months. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to imagine that every 2 weeks, we're increasing our distance run by 0.5 of a kilometer. Week 1 and 2, we're at 1 kilometer. Week 3 and 4, we're at 1.5 kilometers. That's the end of the first month. Week 5 and 6, we're at 2, weeks 7 and 8, we're at 2.5, and as it goes on, by the time you get to the end of your 4 months, your 16 weeks, you're at 5 kilometers. Small, manageable steps, increasing by half a kilometer every 2 weeks, makes it a lot more achievable than having no plan at all. So breaking down into manageable steps is key. But of course, the only way that you're going to stay organized is if you have a schedule. And let me tell you, it is so important when you create this schedule that you treat this schedule the same way that you would a job, the same way that you would any important event or appointment that you need to hold. You have to hold yourself accountable to this schedule as if it is one of the most important things happening. Because if you just say, you know what, I didn't have enough time today, I'll just put it in the schedule tomorrow. If you don't stay true to yourself, there's a lot less chance that you are going to be successful at reaching your goal. We're going to set into place exactly when we plan to run and maybe where we plan to run. If you're being fair with your schedule, it's important to consider all of the commitments that you have in your life. Is there work? Do you have family commitments? Do you have some extracurricular commitments? What time of year is it? Do you live in a place where maybe you can't run outside because it's snowing? So are you going to run indoors? Are you going to run outdoors? When you consider all of those factors, it makes sticking to your schedule a whole lot easier. Doing a little something every day or more frequently actually helps you gain some really good momentum. And if you're interested in showing up for yourself every single day, there's a video that you're going to want to check out about the elastic method, the elastic habit, where it helps you show up every single day for yourself in smaller capacities so that you can build that momentum. And I'll link it here and put it in the description below as well. On to step number 5, which is tracking and adjusting. And this is really important, and a lot of people miss this step, but it is so important to track, somehow be measurable, and adjust when necessary. So let's take a look at it according to this example. In this case, we're going to imagine that there is a bi-weekly check-in. We're going to imagine that this person is keeping a running log of how they're doing, maybe even with some notes. So after they've increased to 1.5 or 2 or 2.5 kilometers, how are they feeling after that? Have they been able to manage and achieve that goal? If not, maybe they need to increase the times per week that they run. Maybe if this is super easy and they're achieving their goal much more quickly, then maybe they might want to ramp up the distance and achieve their goal before 4 months. But when you check in and you stay accountable, it helps you be a little bit more flexible. Although we're setting a deadline and although we are planning to increase incrementally the distance without stopping, this helps us, step 5 really helps us reflect, self-assess, and be okay with if we need to shift a little bit. We don't want to change our goal. We might need to change our time, but being honest with ourselves when we track and readjust helps us create the path that will lead us to the successful completion of our goal. And that leads us, of course, to accountability. You have to be accountable. If you are not accountable to yourself, if you are not honest with yourself, it is really hard to be able to set a goal and achieve it. Sometimes things don't go the way that we want them to. Sometimes things go so much better than we want them to. But all along the way, when you're tracking and adjusting and when you're being honest with yourself, it will always increase your probability of successfully reaching your goal. So how do you actually stay accountable? Sometimes it's really hard to be accountable to ourselves and only ourselves. So maybe you need a buddy. Maybe this person is going to have a running partner. Maybe this person is going to post on social media where they can be accountable to a larger audience. Maybe you confide in a family member. Maybe you find a coach, an outside source. Maybe you find somebody who has already done what you want to do, somebody who has already reached the goal that you want to reach, because it is those people for sure that will never criticize your goal, will never criticize your progress, and they will always be in the cheering section for you to reach your goal. So keep that in mind. All right, let's take a look at example number 2. We're going to imagine that you are writing a novel. You want to write a novel. You've already created your SMART goal, but now you need to put it into action. So we're going to ask ourselves, specific actions. What exactly do I need to do to get this goal completed? What are the actions I need to take? We're going to imagine you need to brainstorm the outline. You need to develop character profiles. You need to outline the main points or perhaps chapters. Another thing that you need to do in order to reach your big goal is you understand that you're going to have to set monthly goals, maybe weekly goals, or even daily writing goals. And finally, you might find yourself, depending on the topic of your book, you may find yourself needing to conduct research on relevant topics for your book. So those are our specific actions. We haven't broken them down yet into manageable steps, but these are the things that we know that we need to do in order to eventually write our book. Next, we need to set some deadlines. What do those deadlines look like? You decide that you're going to give yourself 2 weeks to develop a plot outline. Or maybe you say, I want to create the first draft within 6 months. Once you know your deadline, it will help you break into more manageable steps and attach it to smaller deadline. And if you're struggling with how do I even break these smaller steps into manageable actions or minor or micro goals, I've created a video using this backward design that is beautifully laid out and so easy to follow. And this is a system that will help you achieve any goal. So if you're interested in the backward design, step by step, exactly how to go from, example, writing a book, right down to what you do on a daily basis, you're going to want to check that out. But back to the current manageable steps. So your steps are very similar to setting your deadline. Your manageable steps are creating an outline, breaking down each outline heading into subtopics or sub-outlines, creating one character, creating another character or character profile, researching one topic, researching another topic. Every single subtopic should have its own step and deadline. So how are you going to schedule it? Again, you're probably going to want to check out that backward design video, but in short, scheduling might look a little something like this. You evaluate what is happening in your life right now. You take a look at a calendar and you decide what times of day can I devote, what days of the week can I devote, and you treat them exactly like you would a work day, exactly like you would an appointment, exactly like you would an important event, and you stick with it and you stay committed. And during that time, all you do is focus on a particular manageable step, which leads me to tracking and adjustability, because a lot of times you'll find that many of these steps go hand in hand. So this is what I mean. When you're planning to schedule, sometimes if you haven't experimented with it, you will find that what you thought was going to work doesn't. Maybe you're a night hawk and maybe you like to stay up late into the evening. And so you imagine that you're going to schedule your time to work in the late evenings. However, after a couple of weeks or maybe a month, you might say, all right, just for fun, I'm going to readjust my schedule. I'm going to get up a half an hour earlier and I'm going to try to make that my work block for a month. After those couple of months, when you come back to reevaluate, to track your progress, you might find that although you are a night hawk, although you like staying up late into the evening, although you seem to function really well late into the evening, you're actually more productive in the early morning. Well, that might not be the case, but when we track and adjust, sometimes we find out some interesting things about ourselves that will help us be more productive. So always be open and flexible when you're creating your steps, when you're scheduling, when you're tracking and adjusting. Be honest with yourself because it will help you reach your goals so much faster. So what sort of things can you track if we're talking about writing a book? Maybe you want to track your word count, although I don't really love that. Some people might have that as a nice measurable piece of information. Or maybe you're tracking the completion of your manageable steps. Maybe you're tracking, did I find something to celebrate? So when you finish a manageable step, maybe part of your tracking is to reward yourself with something. If you realize that you're not on the track that you thought you were going to be, these steps are taking you a little bit longer, it's okay. Readjust. Don't try to race through something just because you had it scheduled. Readjust and put it in the schedule accordingly. And obviously the same goes on the flip. If you're ahead of schedule, then readjust that. It's important here to be flexible and to be fair and to be patient with yourself when you're working through the scheduling, the tracking, the adjusting, the creating, all of this entire action plan. Be honest, open, and patient, and your goals will come to fruition. Finally, accountability. Same thing goes. Super important to be accountable. Be fair to yourself, but be honest with yourself. Ask others to read your pieces and give you feedback, and take that feedback and decide how you might need to adjust. Maybe you put it out there for the whole world to read a piece. Maybe you ask a friend or a family member, or as I mentioned in the last example, maybe you give your piece of writing to someone who has already achieved what you want to achieve, because those are the people that are going to be in your corner. Those are the people that are going to give you some possibly critical and harsh feedback, but it's going to be more valuable because they've been there, they've done that, and they've figured out all of the obstacles that need to be overcome. By following these logical steps, you can effectively create an action plan for any SMART goal you set for yourself. Why? Because it helps you create manageable steps, it assigns deadlines to those steps, and it holds you accountable every step of the way. So there you have it, the blueprint to transforming your SMART goals from dreams into reality. I hope you'll join me next time, where we'll be looking at ways to overcome obstacles without giving up on your goals and dreams. As soon as it goes live, you'll see it here. But until then, if you haven't subscribed, you're going to want to do that now so that you get notified as soon as the video comes out. As always, if you found any of this information worthwhile or inspiring, please go ahead and give it a quick thumbs up, because it helps me understand what information you're finding worthwhile. And until next time, remember, trust your own journey.